I would say it took me a few years to accept that I was non-binary after I started learning about others who were.
Yeah.
I just idolized them at first. I was like, am I attracted to them? And then it would just distract me again because I just kept going back to sexuality. Like, okay, this is giving me more information about my sexuality. But no, I was just like, that person's like me.
Welcome to the Coffeeshop AU. I'm Jay, your host. I am trans, non-binary, neurodivergent, and currently based in Seoul, Korea. My pronouns are they, them, and I believe that queer folks like me deserve more safe spaces to share our stories our own way. To help me do just that, my friend Mo is joining me today. Hey Mo, how's it going?
Hi, Jay. Nice to see ya.
Yeah, you too. We haven't seen each other in a bit.
I know. Yeah, it has been a while. But good to see you with
Yeah.
that amazing background.
Thank you. The aurora.
Yes.
Yes, I want to be in the North Pole right now. It's the Zoom background, one of those cool artificial backgrounds they give you. And I'm wearing my...
Flannel?
Yes, I want to be
Yes.
like somewhere north, chopping wood, drinking my
Yes.
coffee.
Working on the Christmas tree farm.
And you should be there with me.
Oh, I'd love to.
I feel like we both have the soft butch energy going.
Yes.
So where are you joining us from in reality?
In reality, from up in space, I'm in Busan
In Busan. Yeah.
from my couch.
Your couch in the living room.
Yes. Well, it's all one room, so
Oh, okay.
really, we're in all the rooms right now.
Excellent. So Busan is like the second largest city in Korea, I think, aside from Seoul.
Yes.
It's in the south and it's supposed to be a bit warmer than Seoul.
Yeah, it sure is.
Oh, good. It's like 0 degrees in
Yes.
Seoul right now outside.
Yeah, I was there recently and I was not happy. Well, I mean, I love Seoul. So much fun and good food, but oof, that cold really got me.
It can get pretty damn cold. What are you drinking?
Oh, so many things. I have a giant water. I have a hot orange tea, and I have a nice Americano. High maintenance, you know? Gotta have all my liquids.
Gotta stay hydrated and
Yeah.
dehydrated.
What do you have?
I have my oat milk latte. Very basic, very low maintenance, actually, for me. I can't have dairy, and I just have this one brand of oat milk that I always order, and I have that with my hot coffee in the morning, and it's just perfect. This is my second cup, to be honest, because I needed to wake up as well.
Yes.
But it's good. But usually I have more than one drink on my desk as well. This is a special occasion, just for you. I'm gonna focus on one cup.
Wow. Glad one of us is focusing.
No, but like real talk, I did completely blank on our planned interview yesterday. We were supposed to do this yesterday, and I just completely forgot. And then you called me. You're like, "Are you okay? Are you alive? I'm worried about you." And I'm
It's like Jay's dead.
"I'm
I need
so
to call
sorry."
him.
You're extremely gracious about it. So
Oh, yeah.
thank you for sitting down with us.
Of course.
Again.
Yeah, yesterday I was all chaos rolling on the floor anyways, so today was the perfect day.
Oh yeah, you did send me. You did send me a few messages. I'm on the floor. Where is my friend Jay? I was standing in the subway, just going, "Wow, the weather is so nice today."
Nothing on the calendar. What a special day.
Nothing on the calendar. But yeah, here we are now, and I think this would be a good point where you introduced yourself.
Right.
I think that would be good.
Oh, hi. Yes, I'm Mo. I'm a transmasc non-binary person, girly boy. I'm white. I'm from New York, and I'm a teacher. And I use all pronouns, they, she, he.
You know, I did not know that about you. I didn't know that you used all pronouns. Is that more of a recent development?
Well, you know, it changes. It's changed,
Yeah.
you know. It always was that way, but I would often use they, them in very comfortable spaces, which I'm always in with you. And then I guess I was like kind of trying to see like which one actually felt like what I really liked. And yeah, I actually do like all pronouns. So,
Oh,
yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
So you don't mind, like, if I was in a queer space with you, which we're always in.
Yeah.
When we meet, it's always a queer space. If I used she or he pronouns for you, that wouldn't put you off?
Yeah, I have noticed that I really like using all of them. I prefer they, them, but I don't mind an interchangeable pronoun moment. I guess sometimes like when I only hear she, then it's like,
Right. So if I used he, she, they, or they, he, she, like I just in a roaster, like would
oh
that be like
yeah.
the perfect recipe
Yeah,
for you?
totally. Keep them guessing. You'll be like having a conversation
Okay.
about me next to me with a friend, and they'll be like, "So, wait, what are we talking about? Who? Huh?" Yeah, just like keep them on their
Delightful.
toes.
I love that. I feel like that matches your energy really well.
Chaos. Yes,
Yeah. Chaotic good.
exactly.
Speaking of spaces that we always meet in, I feel like we met in a pretty queer way.
Yes.
And I always get confused about when we actually met for the first time because I think we found each other online first and then we met in real life. So, what do you remember about our first meeting?
Yeah. Before you, I hadn't met other people online first and then met them in person. So I'm also like a little confused where, when did we actually see each other in person first? But I remember I first got into contact with you when I joined the cacao chat for trans and gender nonconforming people.
Yes.
So, like, I had been totally by myself, searching the web, searching my soul to, like, figure out what was going on with me and was desperately looking for a community or, like, someone to talk to and, like, information. And so I was like, I gotta just, like, start a chat. I gotta start a chat. And then the same day, I saw something posted about a chat and I was like, it exists. And so like I jumped in and I was
Really?
like, I didn't know this existed. And everyone was like, it didn't, except for like yesterday.
Yeah.
And then I heard that like you had started that like just the day before. Yeah. I asked the universe for something and so there it was. And then like my life
Oh my
changed.
gosh, you manifested it through me.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's
So
lovely.
yeah, we like talked in the chat and then we started doing some Zoom chats. I think I met you on Zoom first before we met in person.
Oh, okay. Right.
So like I had an idea of who you were before we actually met in person.
Yeah. And then you came to the sex toy store I was working at the time.
Yes.
Right? That's when
Yeah.
we first met in person.
Maybe, I think.
I think so. I think so.
Okay.
This I have a pretty clear memory of because you're wearing this cool leather jacket
Yeah.
and
That's my one cool leather jacket.
this like cool tousled salt and pepper hair, which I think of as like your trademark. And you were just so at ease and like you gave off very calm energy.
Oh my God. Thank you.
Yeah, and you had other people from our group with you, and it was kind of like a nice, like very easygoing first meeting, I think. I felt very comfortable meeting you, probably because we had talked online first.
Yeah, totally.
And then like I joined you for drinks like at a gay club afterwards, right?
Oh yeah.
I think there was like a drag show or a friend was performing or something like that.
Every time I go to Seoul, I do the same thing. And so I believe you. And I believe you.
Okay, good. You remember like the online part. I remember the offline part. So I
Yeah.
feel like together we form a whole memory.
Wait, but you also performed once. Was that before or after?
I think that's afterwards.
That's after? Okay, okay.
I think that's after.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in a performance as a backup something.
So cool.
And we will not get into that because I'm pretty sure I caught COVID from being in that.
Wait, I think I did too.
Yeah, literally.
Oops.
Oopsie. So I haven't been back to that club after that. Or if I have, I
Fair.
never took my mask off. But
Yeah.
yes, always like really fun seeing you.
Always.
Always. And I feel like you're always at like the center of some gathering, you know? And you're like the most chill person there. You don't even say a lot. But there's always like a swarm of like nice, cool, interesting queer people around you.
Oh,
And so, yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah, that's kind of how I think of you.
Wow, thanks.
Yeah. So when you were looking for that information and you found our very recently created group, how far into your living in Korea was that?
Good question. Well, I lived in Korea for a year and then I left. And then I came back in the pandemic. So then it was probably like the next year.
Okay.
So maybe it had been like a year since I had come back. Yeah. Oof, the pandemic really, like at that time.
Great time to come back.
Right. Oh, it was insane. Insane.
Actually, Korea did a pretty good job with containing and
yeah.
separating people and everything. So it was kind of like a safer place to be in, maybe,
Totally.
but like also you're not Korean. So
Right.
there were some really sketchy, not good things going on with Korean government and people discriminating against foreign people at the time, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was really complicated to get here.
Why'd you decide to come back then?
I mean, it was always like in the back of my mind, and I knew like when I go back, I'm gonna move to Busan. But I had got myself in a lot of projects while I was in New York, like doing restaurant openings, and like I lived with my good friend, and so it felt like it wasn't a time to cut ties with everything and go. Like it never felt like the right time. And I was decently happy there. But then the pandemic came and everything closed and everything was impossible and fell apart. And I was like,
Right.
well, that was a forced tie cutting moment. And
Yeah.
then I got out of there. I mean, I was there for a few months through it, but then I came back.
So I know you really like Busan and you have a good community of people around you, but do you feel sad that you had to leave New York like that?
Yeah, I mean, it was really challenging to leave at that time. Just totally pulled on my heart a lot. Having to like move out from my apartment with my friend and just like seeing so much hurt in the world at that time. And also like that was the exact time of so many Black Lives Matter protests. And it was just a crazy time. Kind of always is over there, but still. Yeah, so it was quite challenging to come back. I felt pretty guilty about it too. But since I came back, everything in my life has gotten a lot better.
Oh, good.
So I know it was the right thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your favorite thing about Busan? Like, what do you love about your life?
Oh, everything. I feel like such an asshole for saying that, but I live my life.
Be an asshole. Be a happy asshole.
Yeah. I mean, I love my job. I teach little babies and get to do like music and movement and wonderful things with them.
Awesome.
And then it's also just like beautiful here, beaches and mountains, and it's decently affordable to me because I'm from New York. So to me, I'm like, wow, it's so cheap. Yeah. I love it here. Yeah.
I'm sure compared to Seoul too, the cost of living might be a little bit cheaper than Seoul.
Yeah, definitely. And just like the quality of what I can get for a cheap price. I really like my home
Right.
and it's not stressful to move around the city. So I love it.
That's awesome. I'm so happy for you. When did you know about your gender identity?
I'm actually like asked that often now, and it's good because I get to think back on my childhood and my past and think about the times when there were signs, and there were so many, but I all that time I didn't have any words or representation of that, so I didn't know about it.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just like kind of told who I am and like had made stories as to why I felt not quite right in a lot of situations.
Yeah.
And those stories worked a little bit to like rationalize it and like feel connection with women who were struggling with their bodies or with social things. So I never felt totally alone, but I never felt like I had really found what was going on so that I could fully accept it. So yeah, like once I finally started learning about gender, then I was like, oh, that feels very similar to me. And then from there, it took a while for me to accept that that was also me.
Yes.
I almost like put it on a pedestal. I was like, non-binary people exist and they're amazing. I could never. They're amazing. And like later I was like, wait, maybe I am too. And then,
You are.
oh my God, thank you.
I mean, we are pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So was that before you moved to Korea this time?
Yes. Yes. But I would say I didn't fully accept it until I was back here the second time. Like I knew maybe before, but it wasn't until I was back here and really had a safe, comfortable place with fewer distractions that I was able to fully accept it.
Yeah. It's interesting how I have a lot of friends in the queer community from other countries, and they come to Korea for a job because they want to live abroad, and they like leave their homes to come here, and they leave their communities that they've known their entire lives behind, and they come here and they're like, wait, I can actually be who I am here without having to worry about other people. I have this space to find out. And I think it's so interesting because some of my friends come from really liberal places, like much more queer friendly than Korea is, which I don't think it is very much yet. But those common stories that I hear of like, I just felt free to explore who I was because I didn't know a lot of people. So I'm wondering if that's something that you felt as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's so bizarre to me that like I lived in Brooklyn, New York, surrounded by the gays, like fully surrounded by queer culture, and I just couldn't figure it out there. It's just so strange to me. Yeah.
And then you come here.
Yeah, and then I come here and they're like, gay, bad. And I'm like, oh, okay, got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I think in the past, a lot of my education about queer culture was about sexuality.
Yes.
And so I was so caught up in the options for sexuality. And I really just still didn't know about how there's so many options for gender as well. I just didn't know about queer gender.
Yes.
So once I learned about that and learned that they're different, I was like, oh, okay, got it. Makes so much more sense.
Gender and sexual orientation.
Yes.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get confused though because it's all tied up under this umbrella term of being queer. But gender identity and sexual orientation are two separate things. I mean, they're not unconnected, but they are different things. And I think for both people in the queer community and outside of it, it can be a little bit murky, especially if your orientation is not heterosexual, like not straight. Then you're like, oh, everybody's talking about sexual orientation and how important it is to be true to yourself in that way. And then like the gender identity part can get pushed back a little bit. I feel like you almost have to like deal with one thing at a time.
Yeah.
I also lived in a pretty liberal city like London when I first realized my sexual orientation, which is pansexual. And I feel like that information came more readily to me than anything about gender identity, especially anything that had to do with like non-binary genders. I was so glad that I met you through the group and all these other trans non-binary people. There are quite a lot of like non-binary people in our trans community.
Yeah.
And I was really surprised by that, and I was so glad because I thought I was the only
Yeah.
one. And
Me too.
yeah, right? Oh my gosh, like the amount of bullshit that each of us has gone through to get here.
Just to find each other.
Exactly. That's like nothing short of a miracle. And I respect every person in our community so much because you know how obscure it is to find your way through this entire thing. So, yeah. Kudos.
Yeah. We did it.
We did it. It never happens just like, oh, I'm non-binary? Okay. No, it's like finding out that it exists. And then it's like, could it be me? Do I dare?
Do I dare?
That's an entire process as well. So, how long do you think it took for you from learning about the fact that non-binary people exist to then accepting that you are also non-binary? And then from that point to, oh, maybe I want to find more community and more information.
I would say it took me a few years to accept that I was non-binary after I started learning about others who were.
Yeah.
I just idolized them at first. I was like, am I attracted to them? And then it would just distract me again because I just kept going back to sexuality. Like, okay, this is giving me more information about my sexuality. But no, I was just like, that person's like me. So yeah, it took me a few years to accept that. And when I found community to talk to about it, I was mostly in acceptance, but maybe not. I don't know.
Right.
Like, I am someone who just like can't handle the question being unanswered. And so I just like dove in and I was like, okay, I'm going to find a therapist who I can talk to about this specifically. I'm going to look up all the information. I have to be 100% sure before I talk about it ever with anyone. But then I met you guys and I was like, oh, I can be a little bit unsure and talk about this.
Oh, yeah.
And that was really helpful. Yeah, because like I always wanted to be like 100% sure before I said something because it felt so permanent. But now I know that it's so not. Like, it's so great to like have the freedom to explore it and also evolve. It can be true, the things that I feel and identify myself as, and it can evolve too. So,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
So true.
Now I know that, but before I didn't really know that.
Exactly. Exactly. Wow, I'm really glad you felt that way. And I actually feel that way too about the community. When we started talking to each other, I had been socially out as a non-binary person for a few years at that point. But like from the moment that I really consciously thought, oh, I might be trans, to then actually meeting my first non-binary human in real life, a friend in the queer group of friends, and then accepting, oh, I'm non-binary. And then like coming out to people. That took like many, many years, but when I met you, I was in full acceptance of that. But just because I felt comfortable saying I'm non-binary doesn't mean that I am completely all the time feeling like I'm this. Because I do feel like it evolves. And the community, like talking to other people who are like, yeah, for now, I am using this language. For now, I feel this way. So that was like really reassuring because I was like, holy again, I'm not the only one. We're all kind of trees in the wind.
Yes.
Kind of like blooming in different ways and at different paces, but we can talk about it without having to be 100% sure. That was like a revelation to me as well. Wow, we are actually human.
That's beautiful. Yes, trees grow together.
Yeah, trees talk to each other. No, this is like a scientific fact.
It was so hard when I was like, okay, now it's time to be myself socially, be myself around others, tell them about myself. I wonder how that was for you. I know that for me, the permanence of it was really scary because I thought that if I say this about myself and something evolves later, or if I have more information later,
Right.
then I'll be labeled as mentally ill, or
Right.
people will convince themselves that they know more about me than I do.
Exactly.
Which it was just because of, society and my life before. I was often told who I am, and I didn't feel ownership over my own identity.
Completely.
And so I was like, okay, well, I should also visit the psychiatrist too, just to make sure that I'm not crazy. Not that mental illness is crazy. I got all that stuff too. So I was like, okay, but like maybe it's mental illness and I'm not actually queer, so I shouldn't say it, because then that's disrespectful to the queer community. So then like I went to that doctor, and then I was like, oh, I'm a little depressed and I have ADHD. And so then I started working on that, and I was like, oh, those things, yes, and I'm non-binary. Okay,
Right.
got it, cool. All the boxes checked.
Multiple things can be true at the same time.
But like, why couldn't I just say the one thing? Why couldn't I just say my identity as well and sort through those things? I felt like I couldn't until I was 1,000,000% sure.
Oh my gosh. I feel like this point probably resonates with a lot of trans people, and I think especially non-binary folks, or even with just like queer people in terms of their orientation. Because I do feel like the entire structure of the cis-normative society we live in, it's about boxes. And it's very black and white in that you either belong in a box or you don't. So you have to be really sure, because the moment you step out of the box, then you're now like a deviant. And you want to belong as a human, I think. And so that idea of, if I step out of the box, people are going to start seeing me in this way. Like, I think there's a lot of connection between mental illness and like, because mental illness is about trauma. I feel like a lot of mental illness comes from trauma.
Totally.
And the society is a breeding ground for trauma, for people who are in any way different from the quote unquote norm, and even people who do belong there. You know, like, we're all different in subtle little weird ways, but we live in a world where it kind of shuts down any conversation about, could I be this or could I be that? Could I be different in a million different ways, and could that change throughout my lifetime? Because it's not convenient. And so I feel like there's so much pressure around, well, just make up your mind, you know? And I feel like we do that with other things too. Like, what kind of career path do I want? I want to do carpentry and also pottery and also podcasting.
Yes.
Why can't I just do all three at the same time if I can find a way to do it? And the society is like, no, then you're such a weirdo. Like, you're going to lose relevance. And I feel like relevance is like a big thing. We want to be connected to other people. And so finding a name for what we are or how we identify gives us that connection. This my thought is going in like a million different ways now. But it's such a good question.
It is.
And I think there are good answers for that I'm not thinking of.
Is it queerness or is it neurodivergence, you know? Like, which one is it to describe just not following any of the rules?
Yeah.
Not following the rules and just making your own. And it's so freeing and so
scary.
Wonderful. It's so scary. So scary, but then like once you do it, it's like, oh, it's great. I can do carpentry and wait, I forget what you said, but
and
I
like
can do anything I
BDSM,
want.
I want to be a dom, a professional dom at the same time.
Wait, can we just call back to right before we started this? I was like, is this podcast PG or not?
Yeah.
I was like, what am I allowed to say?
It's gonna be both. But there's some research being done about the connection between those things too. And there is like a huge proportion of gender nonconforming or trans people in the neurodivergent community. So I'm sure there is a connection. It's just that, again, like, society puts everything in boxes. So we can't see over the walls of all these different boxes. And so we have to like take it step by step. When maybe in a different world, we could just have more of a bird's eye point of view, look at all the different things, and we're like, oh, yeah, this makes up the whole picture of who I am. And we don't have to go to doctors and stuff. But I mean...
we don't have to go to doctors and stuff.
We do.
That's so true.
Yeah. But like, it breaks my heart that one of the first things that came up for you, and it's also been true in my experience, that you're like, oh, I might be non-binary. I might not identify as a man or a woman. Then one of the first things that comes up is, am I mentally ill? Because I think a lot of that is social messaging.
Totally.
Yeah. And also you don't have a lot of representation around non-binary people, especially not years and years ago. So you're like, am I literally just dreaming up something that just doesn't exist in reality? And so then, am I real? Is my identity valid?
Yeah, totally.
But also, they do make you go to a psychiatrist to get an evaluation.
They sure do.
So that you can get a diagnosis for gender dysphoria and then start your medical transitioning, which you have done. You have begun that process.
Yeah.
A little bit earlier than me. For me, it was really helpful to have that information that you were sharing about your process and also personal experience of going through that process. So if you don't mind sharing that a little bit with us, how did you find it? Because also you're an expat resident.
Yes.
And you're navigating the medical system in Korea, in a different country. What's your Korean level?
It's not so good.
Like, did that affect your process?
Oh, yeah, because, like, my Korean is not good enough that I could read a web page and understand it. Or, like, make a phone call. I couldn't make a phone call.
But that's what the community is here for, so we can help each other out.
Yes. Yes, now we're so connected, and everyone is so happy to help each other. So that's great. But, like, it was wild. A lot of it was me not wanting to ask for help because I don't like to do that sometimes. And then also just being scared that if I asked for help, then, like, that was making it 100% real and like showing myself to someone, you know, and I was really scared about my job finding out about me, like going to a doctor. Like I had to make sure that my name and this information didn't go anywhere. Like I really needed to keep it safe.
Right.
Because we don't have the proper anti-discrimination laws here, and I could easily just get fired, kicked out of the country. So I was like, whoop, let's be safe here. But yeah, like I looked online on Facebook a lot. Like I dug through Facebook groups and like the old posts and comments. And like there was an old document. There was like a lot of old information, but not a lot of new stuff. And so like I used a lot of the old information and then hit some roadblocks because it had changed. And also just because I didn't live in Seoul.
Right. Most of the information that you found, the medical information and stuff pertinent to Korea, was made by other expat people who had lived in Korea before.
Yes. Oh my God, bless them.
Yeah. Good job. If you're listening, great job.
Yes. Oh my God, you saved my life.
And that was like a really good starting point. But as you said, you were not based in Seoul, where most of the facilities are.
Right.
You were living in Busan. How did you navigate that?
Then I looked online. There's a website that felt very scary to me. Maybe it's just normal, but like to me it felt a little spooky. Very secret forum thing. And it was all in Korean. So I had to like make a profile and then like earn enough points to see anything on it. And then like once I did, do you know what I'm talking about?
Is this one of those like cafes, like Naver Cafe places?
No, but maybe
website?
it runs itself in a similar way. It's a website.
Okay.
Maybe it is powered by Naver. I don't know, but that's not like in the name.
Okay.
And so, yeah. So then like I had to like wait multiple days and like earn points or something so that I could be allowed in. I think they want to like make sure you're not a bot. So I have to like prove that I'm a human by like constantly going in and like earning these points.
And also not just a homophobic, queerphobic person trying to like find out people's information.
Right. They're like, if you really want this information, you're going to do the work. And so, yeah, did that. And then like I used translator app on Chrome to like translate the stuff. But then people were they didn't want to share information about doctors and stuff publicly because like these doctors don't just shout to Korea, I provide HRT and like I do top surgery. Like they don't want to say that.
Yeah.
And so there's like special code to how people post about these doctors and give their recommendations. And like people will ask a question and the comments will be blocked. You can't look at it unless you're the poster. And then the ones that were public were like in code. And so like I had to learn the code. It was crazy.
In Korean.
Yeah. Like, you know, like it'll show like one character instead of the whole letter. And then it'll show like just the characters. And I like didn't know what that means. So hard for me.
Yeah. No, I find that on the few times that I've looked online to gather information around who can I go to, where can I go for getting my evaluation done for F64, which is the gender dysphoria diagnosis. And like where can I go to get hormone therapy? Like hormone therapy, there's not a lot of information. Top surgery, also like the names of the hospitals are blanked out in the information that they give you. It's like they give you one letter.
The important part.
And I'm like, what? Like, is this what? Like, so
it's like you can go to ooh, and I'm like, that's not helping me. Also,
and then, like,
what?
I get it because like I understand that sometimes I've seen one post about top surgery where somebody's left an honest review of their experience on their top surgery process and recovery process, and they like didn't even mention the hospital by the name. Again, it was like blanked out characters, but they still got a complaint from the hospital.
Yeah.
And they still got a complaint from the surgeon. And so they're like, can you take that post down? And like, how the are we supposed to find any information this way? Like,
yeah,
the access level is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
But you managed to
decode
all of that. And and it's interesting that like you wanted to find out information, but like it just sounds like you did most of the work yourself, and then you kind of share that information with us. So the brave frontier.
If that helps explain why I'm so passionate about making information readily available, that is
Right.
why. I'm
Right,
like,
right.
we need directories. We got to put it in one place.
Yeah.
But it also has to be hard to find.
I know.
Not
Again, it's
super hard
like
to find, but then once you find it, it's all there.
it's all
Like,
there.
it's
Exactly.
crazy.
So it's such a
So
difficult
challenging.
balance to strike.
Yeah.
I think especially back when you were first finding out about all this information, now it's a little bit better. There are a couple of university hospitals and surgeons who openly talk about gender affirming surgeries and gender affirming care online, so you can find them. But again, you know, in English, there's a language barrier for a lot of expat people living here. And also, still, a lot of the where to go for the first gender diagnosis, dysphoria diagnosis, that's still really, really obscure.
Yeah.
And you really have to be deep in the know, in the community, to even get your bearings.
And then to find it in your native language.
Exactly, exactly.
It's crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But it gave me like so much compassion for health providers, like surgeons, OBGYNs, like all the doctors who provide gender affirming care. They're kind of putting their career on the line in order to offer those services. Like it's really hard for them to continue their career while also doing that, it seems like they have so many barriers from the hospitals just for them to offer that care, and then they do. And it seems like they also make huge changes through the hospitals, and that is a
Yes.
ripple effect to society. And I'm just like so grateful that there are people who just continue to do that, continue to offer it, and like
Yes.
keep fighting for that. I'm so grateful.
Yeah. Allyship matters.
Hell yeah.
I remember the feeling that I had when I first found a video of a surgeon that we both know of. You got your top surgery from the surgeon.
Yes, my gorgeous designer chest. Sorry.
Your chest is gorgeous.
Thank you.
And a few years ago, when I was first really like embodying my non-binariness in a more social way, telling people these are my pronouns, please use them. I was going through such an anxious period in my life. That was like when things were really bad. When I was like, I can't pretend to be a gender non-conforming cis person anymore, which I feel like I've been doing all my life. Not because I was trying to trick people, because I didn't know. So,
Of course.
getting out of that space was just so anxiety ridden, and just so everybody I kept talking to, because I didn't know a lot of non-binary people at the time. I knew one person. So people are like, are you sure? They gaslight you without meaning to. You know, it's kind of like, it's not just, are you sure? It's like,
Prove it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, prove it.
So I'm like, right, how? You know, because I literally don't know how. I don't know where to go to get my diagnosis. I don't know how to prove it to you or to myself even. So in that very hectic time, even doing research on the topic, even doing research on medically transitioning, which I didn't know for sure I wanted. But at the time, I was like slowly coming around to the idea, maybe I really need top surgery. It's not really a choice for me. So I was like looking into it. All the information I could find was in English, you know, like all these like handful of trans people talking about their experience in the US. And I'm like, well, you know, where can I go here? And there was one surgeon
Wow.
who had posted a video about top surgery, and not just for trans femme people, but also for trans masc people as well. And I was like, she's Korean, she's in Korea, she's doing this in Korean. And I literally felt like a light at the end of a really long dark tunnel. I'm like,
Yeah.
a single ray of light. Oh my gosh. And so I made a point to tell everybody I knew, like, people, there's this one person. I was literally telling everybody
she
I
did
knew.
it. She's doing it.
Yeah, and because she studied in the US, she speaks English, right? And now we're like getting very close to like identify her by her name. But since then, there have been other surgeons and other medical care providers who have also stepped up. I don't know if she was the first person to do it, but she was the first person I found who was doing that in Korea. And it literally felt like, oh, maybe it's possible for me to actually live as like the person that I feel like inside.
Yeah.
But it was really scary, and it was like such a big relief, and like it makes a lot of difference. But I also feel like it's people like you and me, people building communities, people who talk about their experiences who are like not 100% sure, but let's talk about it. I'm sure that made like so much difference. Like the way that I found this surgeon also was through a YouTube channel of this Korean couple. One person is a trans guy. The other person was identifying as a cis woman at the time, and now they identify as non-binary. They're openly talking about their lives and experiences, and this is who we got our top surgery from. And I'm like,
Yeah, you were actually the one who told me about her.
the surgeon.
Because I had been to 3 other consultations before.
Right.
And then you're like, oh, and there's also this one. I was like, oh, another?
Yes. And yeah. And she's like not just talking about medical procedures, but actually talking about queer rights as well as an ally. And I really like that. Yeah, humanize us. Like see us as people and not just like, you know, pathologies.
Yes.
And something to fix.
Totally. The other surgeon, I'd gone to 4 consultations, and there was one other that I absolutely love too. She's amazing. Unfortunately, it was just a little bit more expensive at that hospital.
Yes.
So like I ended up not doing it there. But she also is really changing the scene and doing amazing work.
Yeah.
So.
And you know what I've noticed? Is that all the medical professionals who are spoken out publicly on their like social media channels and from their public positions of being a medical care provider in an open public way are all are all women. It's something that I've noticed. All these people that now I'm like thinking of, apart from that one trans dude in that YouTube, like the couple, I'm like, yeah, they're all women. Anyway, so women are awesome. That's the conclusion.
Thanks to women.
Yeah, big thanks to women. Women change the world.
Yes.
Oh, also, I feel like it's important to mention how expensive each and every process is.
Yeah.
The process of like getting the diagnosis, the evaluation, which was extremely stressful and cost me. For me, that was like a one-off process of like going to the evaluation, get it done, wait for the diagnosis. And then I got started on my gender-affirming hormone therapy. For you, it was a different process. What was it, if you care to describe that just briefly for us?
Yeah, I guess it was a little bit harder because I needed someone who spoke English and then also someone who, well, actually, yes. So at the time I was looking for a therapist who was in Korea because of time difference stuff. I wanted them to be in Korea and queer friendly and know something about gender because I basically wanted like a gender therapist to talk through this with to be 100% sure. So we started having normal therapy sessions, and then later through our sessions I decided that I wanted to start HRT and like needed a letter. But when I started with her, I didn't think that she could do it. And so I was like stressing about finding someone who could give me that letter. And then she ended up talking with her boss and came back to me one week and was like, I can do it. I found a way. And I was like, oh my God, you found a way. And so after doing these sessions, she believed me. And then she was able to send me an online test of like 1 million questions. How many is it? Like 300?
Oh my 500? God, yes.
How
it's
many
hundreds
questions?
of questions. I was sitting in the waiting room at my psychiatrist's office where I got my evaluation done for like an hour because I wanted to be thorough, but the nurses were like pissed off at me because they needed to like get me in through the door and then like get me out because I actually couldn't finish the question sheets in time for my evaluation. So I just went inside, did the evaluation, came out and like finished the sheet.
Yeah.
And then it was time for them to close and I was still sitting there with like, let me just like
How many questions was it? I used to remember.
300 something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think people in the field would know like which one we're talking about.
Yes.
But it's a huge list of questions you have to answer. I mean, for me, it was like surrounded by a bunch of random strangers.
Oh my God. And you're like on the clock. That sounds horrifying.
Yeah. And then like the week before the actual diagnosis arrived, I was like, what if I answered the questions wrong?
Right.
What if I was off my game? What if I didn't represent myself very well? And like in the evaluation process for me, I was asked to describe my entire life journey of when did you know? How did you know? How do you feel now? And all of this in an hour or an hour and a half or something like that. And I was like, I don't know how to do this. How do you do that? And now I guess I'm asking other people to do the same thing, but just in a more relaxed environment, not in a medical environment. But I was like, I've never met this evaluation person before. And also, for whatever reason, there were so many chairs in that room, just like a stacked chairs and like a weird painting and a printer that was clearly out of order. And I'm like, what is this storage that I'm getting my evaluation done at? And also a lamp, like a single lamp on the table, like in a you know, in those like
dim yellowy light.
yeah, and like a metal desk, like in one of those police questioning rooms, when you watch those like crime shows. And I'm like, wow, this is not high pressure at all.
How spooky.
It was pretty spooky. The lady was super nice, but I was like, what is happening? This feels like the most surreal thing I've ever experienced. And I lost the plot a little bit, but this actually reminds me of your,
test.
you know, like, yeah, like this might be why. Like, this might be a big part of why we are scared to say, I'm non-binary, or I'm this, or even I think I'm this, before we're like 100% sure whatever that means. Because this is asking them for proof, right?
Yeah.
The doctors, the people around you, they're asking for proof of how you feel on the inside.
Yeah.
And so, okay, have you tried doing that? What does that look like for you? Because this is so much time, energy, money going into prove something that you already know in yourself.
Yeah.
But could also evolve, right? And you don't know what point you are at in that evolution. And you're being asked, like, you need to cross this line. Like, I've heard that people quote unquote fail these evaluations. Like the doctor who runs the office told me before I went in for my evaluation. I told you about that. Some people are a paler shade of blue. Some people are so blue and it's very clear.
Does it mean?
And I'm like somebody who always has dressed androgynously. I'm not like a hyper-masculine trans-mask person. So I feel like in my mind he was trying to warn me. But it's so messed up. Just the fact that even in these evaluations, you're asked to put on some kind of version of yourself that might not feel completely natural. So that messes with your head a lot. It's so much pressure. And like, we have talked about a lot of fear around this entire process, like the anxiety and everything. After the fact, I think, often it's like, I did this. And it was really bad. Like, that's how our group conversation goes. How bad was it for you? It's never like, how great was that? It's like, it's great now, but like, how horrendous was that experience for you?
Yeah.
So like, if we evolve and like we feel differently in the future, do we have to do this all over again?
Right.
We know logically it's probably not going to be the case, but like that whole ordeal of having to prove and convince other people, I think that's really, really huge part of why we can't just say, I'm neurodivergent and I'm non-binary. Yeah.
Yeah, like we do that in our lives every day. And so it sucks that the one doctor you're going to like help you fully embrace your whole self is also asking for a numerical value of how trans are you? It's like, hey, now you're supposed to be the one who doesn't do that because everyone else is.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was so like confused taking the test because I was like, I was really lucky that I had already like been with my therapist through this journey. So like she had seen the truth in it already. I didn't have to like suddenly convince her upon meeting her. Like she was with me through some weeks of deep thinking. But anyways, when I took the test, I was like, okay, so this is like yes or no questions that are asking basically about my brain and all these kinds of like mental illness. It's basically like questions that are giving symptoms of possible conditions or something, you know? That's what I felt like was happening. It was like asking about my brain. And I knew that the results would be like data.
Yeah.
Because she was like, I know it sucks. You have to do this. They'll only let you start if I have some data to back up my letter. I was like, that's crazy. She's like, yeah. But then when I was taking it, I was like, so am I 100% honest or do I have to lie a little?
Yeah.
Like, if they think I'm too crazy, are they going to say like, no, they can't make decisions for themselves? But I ended up like answering it honestly. There was a back button. So I answered some strategically and then I was like, no, I can't do that for 300 questions and screw this up. So I like went back and answered them honestly and then it worked out.
Right. Because they also measure how truthful you are, how consistent your answers are throughout the question sheet. That's why there are like a million questions on there, because some of them are really similar questions just worded differently, and then they're seeing like how consistent your actual answers. And I'm like, this is such a and I know that people who are struggling with mental health issues not related to gender identity also take this test. It's like a comprehensive evaluation of your brain health, mind health. I understand why it's there, but if you're doing this because you're trying to get a diagnosis for gender dysphoria and you feel like you've been bending over and under and just like in so many different ways to convince yourself that you're not non-binary and not trans, it feels almost like it's just like trying to test your integrity or something. And that can be really triggering.
Totally.
Because if you're a sexual minority of some kind and you live in a world where you have to sort of mask it a lot, then you already feel like you're an imposter in a way. And now it's like, wait, so it's all of a sudden you want me to drop the facade? Or like, what do I do here?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's kind of disorientating.
It's so, yeah. If anyone out there is going through that right now, our hearts are so with you.
Yes. And it literally sucks so many balls, and not like clean washed ones, just really
the
dank,
dirtiest, stankiest
sweaty,
ones.
smelly balls. And so sorry that you're going through this, but also you will get through it.
Keep going.
Keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah. So you got through the questions.
Yes. Got my letter. I was like, yes.
It's a letter from your therapist.
Yes.
Which is the equivalent of getting an official diagnosis.
Yes.
Right.
That was like the official diagnosis that I had to give to the OBGYN.
Who then...
Yes, can then prescribe...
the gender-affirming hormone therapy.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Also, I live in Busan, and I work Monday through Friday, so I can only actually see a doctor on Saturday, which is quite rare. So that means I couldn't see most doctors. Luckily, this one doctor had Saturday mornings, but every other Saturday morning, and then sometimes not, sometimes yes. So like I made an appointment with her to like go, and I was like, I'm finally starting. It's going to be great. And I stayed with my friend, and it was like so much anticipation. Showed up there Saturday morning with my stuff, and I go to the doctor, and they're like, she's not here this weekend. And I just spent so much money traveling across the country, had spent months trying to get this paperwork and everything. And then I was just like in the hospital, and some person was like, oh no, she's not here today. And I just broke down into tears. And she was like, oh my God. Because like she didn't know my story. This is just a woman who was like, oh, sorry.
The receptionist?
Yeah, like a receptionist. I was like, I have an appointment with blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, she's not here. And I was like, duh. And she was like, oh my God, I'm sorry. Oh God.
How could you not be there if you made an appointment?
Because I couldn't make appointments in Korean, and so I used a translating service to help me call to make appointments with all these places. And I guess they made a mistake.
Got it.
I was very clear, and they told me, we did it, we've made it with this person, but I don't think it was their fault. There was just too many cooks in the kitchen trying to make this appointment. So then I was in there just like bawling my eyes out. I was like, she's like, you could just come back next time. And I was like, sure.
Oh my gosh.
So then, my friend lived maybe 45 minutes on a train away from there, and I walked the whole way. I was like, the doctor's not there. I'm having a breakdown. I'm going to take a walk. And she's like, okay, text me. And so like I just walked all the way back to her apartment and just calmed myself down. And I was like, it's going to be fine. And then I went back to Busan, made a new appointment, went up there, and then really started it later. That was crazy.
Yeah. I mean... You know, there are some people who say that so many young people these days now identify as trans, now identify as queer, and they're doing it for attention. And I'm like, You
don't know what they've been through.
If people could hear this story and see how common it is, right? Like, it is so rare to hear a trans person's story, whether they're a binary trans person or a non-binary trans person, or just, gender non-conforming. Like, to get access to the care that you need, how many hurdles there are. Yeah, just really rare to hear a story where everything was fine. My family was supportive of me. I could financially do it right away. And there were no mess ups in the process. And there was not a lot of emotional turmoil. I've never heard this story. I've heard from a friend that a person like that exists. But I've never met someone like that. So it's messed up. It's just messed up. I'm really sorry that you had to go through that. I didn't know about the appointment that fell through the first time.
That was crazy town.
If it had been me, no, I would have been on the floor just like sobbing and just going like, no, call her now. I need to see her.
I need her now.
I waited my entire life for this.
Like the room was like busy with people
who are pregnant, because it's an OBGYN's office. They always send you to an OBGYN's office. So it's like all these pregnant ladies and pregnant people with their like really straight cis looking partners sitting in chairs next to each other and staring at us. Sitting on this other bench outside of this one office, and it's like so comfortable and welcoming. If you haven't been there, it's really hard to know how nerve-wracking it can be and like how much hope you hold when you go into every space that's supposed to provide you with the care that you need. But oftentimes it feels more like a test, and it's really messed up to hear that they're like, you need to be super 1000% sure that you're this, so we'll give you this precious access to medical care so that, you know, your life is not going to be as sucky anymore. But then they're like, oops, sorry, she's not here. Why don't you just make that like 5-hour train ride again next week?
Oh my gosh. I'm so pissed.
Yeah.
But once I did finally see that doctor, everything was very smooth, actually. I didn't need to convince her of anything. She was wonderful. Doctors that I saw after that were wonderful. Like, she gave me referrals for top surgery, and
good.
everyone was super easy to see and talk to after that.
Yes.
So,
yeah. I do remember when I went to see the same doctor, because, you know, we all share information. I've changed my hormone therapy clinic now. But when I was there, it was my first time like going in. I was like, oh, I'm actually going to get testosterone. I'm actually going to start. Oh my gosh. My heart was in my throat.
It's Christmas.
It's like 1,000 Christmases rolled into one. But you are kind of scared that for whatever reason, they're going to find a reason to like not give you the present.
Absolutely.
You know? Or you just feel like you're on the edge like the entire time. So I remember I had a book with me, and it was like a scientific essay about fish that I'd taken out of the library. And I was like genuinely interested in reading this book. But I think some part of me was like, if I carry this book into the office, into the consultation room with the doctor, she'll think that I'm smart enough and like logical enough. And so she'll believe me more, or like she'll ask less like stupid questions, or, you know, like I don't know what it was, but I was just like, I want to look smart going into this, so that she doesn't treat me like somebody that she needs to interrogate or something, you know? It sounds so nonsensical now, but it was like a real fear. I was like, I need to look smart. Like, I know what I'm talking about.
I need to know about fish, and then they'll know that I know everything else.
Of course. Yeah. I just need to impress her with my fish book.
That's hilarious.
But then actually she didn't really ask me questions. It was very efficient, and I was actually surprised
Efficient?
Of course.
Sorry.
But like once I got in through that door, I was actually shocked by how simple everything was. Okay, got a blood test. Okay, you want to get started on this. Okay, da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, wow. Everything up until now had been like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
And now it's a snowball. You're just rolling down a nice hilltop.
Totally agree.
You just gain momentum. Like, that wasn't a perfect process to me. You know, in time, I got to feel like there wasn't enough information or FaceTime that was being given to me in a way that I wanted, or the level I felt like I deserved. So I ended up switching, and I'm like so happy with this new clinic. Incredible.
I went I went.
You went?
And it was amazing. Yes.
Oh, yay, 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 yay.
Yes.
Yes. That's awesome.
You're so right. They're really like on the move to make it wonderful, and it's wonderful. It's
so
cool.
glad you feel this way as well. It's got a gender neutral bathroom. The name itself is like, we are a rainbow clinic.
And like the paperwork, when I got in there, did you know they put it all into English? And then even when the paperwork, they put all into English. Yeah. Like, I wonder if it's because after you went there and you were like, hey, can my foreigner friends come here?
I did ask that.
But yeah, they did that. And then
oh my gosh, that's amazing.
they gave me the prescription paper to go to the pharmacy, and the front desk, amazing angels. Like, were making sure that I knew exactly where to go. They had printed out the information in English and were like showing me like where to walk. And I was like, oh my
God, that's amazing.
I typed it in my Papago, like, this is the most amazing thing ever. Like, I really appreciate like how much you're taking care of me. Like, and I showed them and they were like, oh no, get out of here. Goodbye.
Oh my
like
gosh.
In a nice way. They were like, oh no, you don't have to thank us. And I was like, no,
that's like incredible.
This doesn't happen. This doesn't happen.
Yeah, it really doesn't. And I feel like I felt safe like the moment I walked into that space, because it's kind of a small private clinic. Again, an OBGYN office. But the interior just radiates safety. Like, this is a safe space. You're not going to be judged. And everybody's so well informed and so accommodating. And I did not know that they would be printed. I did inquire about it when I first went in because I loved it. And I was like, I got to share this with everybody in the group. And so the doctor was like, I don't speak fluent English, but if there's enough time for the first intake interview, which they do like a really thorough interview at the beginning when you first go in a separate office, just because there's a lot of information to communicate with the patients. Like, if we have enough time, it's not going to be an issue. So after you left, actually, your last appointment, the staff at the hospital called me to make sure, because they knew, I think I helped make the reservation for you or something for your appointment.
Yeah.
Initially. In person, I never said like, oh, that's my friend. So like, I didn't know if they knew, but they just called me after you left and said,
just knew.
Hey, we need Mo to get this checkup, and they can transfer it over from last year's and can get it for free or like for really like low cost is part of the health insurance. Can you translate for us and like send this message to them? And I was like,
sorry, but thank you.
No, I was really, really happy to do it. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, they were so respectful. I'm like, of course.
Lovely.
I love that you're taking care of my friend.
Yeah.
So I'm just so happy. Okay, so this is the kind of joy.
They even texted me. Sorry,
No.
this is a tangent, but like they even texted me personally when I was on my way there, and were like, "Hi, please respond via text. Can you speak Korean?" Just because they were like preparing for my visit.
Right.
So they texted me to ask if I spoke Korean, and I was like, I am a Papago person. Honestly, I will call someone if I need to. I will use Papago. My understanding is not great. Is that okay? Do you want me to make arrangements? Because this was like maybe 2 hours before. And they were like, okay, no, that's fine. Great. Just wanted to check. See you later. It's amazing. Yeah. So they really, thank you
awesome
for that recommendation.
Of course.
And I think it's only going to like continue to get better from here.
Yeah.
It seems like they're so proactive about that stuff.
Yes. And you know what the wildest thing about that place is? The doctor, who I had an assumption a little bit of like, wow, this doctor is so queer friendly. I feel like there's just like a general open queer vibe. The person who did the intake had a rainbow strap Apple Watch on and a wedding ring. And I'm like, dude. So I was just like, maybe the staff are queer too, which is great.
We always hope.
There's hope. And the fact that I can like reasonably imagine that possibility is amazing and awesome. And I feel like the fact that that kind of place exists in Seoul right now in 2024, that really does give me hope as well, that it's going to be like a branching out sort of situation, not a shrinking in situation, because the doctor is part of like Catholic medical professional organization or network of doctors and medical health providers who are part of this Catholic medical school or something. And I'm like, wait, if the Catholics are doing it.
Oh my God,
there's so much
Get the
hope.
Catholics on board, baby.
Actually, the Catholic Church in Korea, whenever you go to Pride or P-Flag meetings, there are priests and nuns
Yeah, there are.
everywhere. Like, actually, I've met some amazing nun folk at
Really?
these places. They're really outspoken, really like talking about patriarchy, misogyny. It's just, there's like Catholic Church has a long way to go when it comes to gender equality. We're here to make it happen. And like the priests a lot of times are like, yes, yes, just like nodding along and being like super like coming in to learn energy, which we love. But really there to learn and like advocate for us. So yeah, Catholics are actually doing some cool work. Not all of them, but anyway, I just think it's cool for people to know that
awesome.
about Korea.
Totally. And for the record, people offering gender affirming care don't need to be queer, but it's more just like a cherry on top when they are.
Oh my
But
gosh.
totally not a requirement.
Not a requirement.
Thank you so much. But it's just a little fun, like, oh, fun, you're queer too. That's even better.
Absolutely. I feel like I trust the person, again, to see me more as another human than just a patient or just part of a cause that they're championing. Not that I would say no to that or that allies look at queer folks or any minorities in that way. But it's just nice to feel like you're part of the same community.
Yeah.
And like, if you know what it feels like to be discriminated against or excluded or seen as less than because of who you are,
Yeah.
then it's like, yeah. I have a great time with the doctor now. With that doctor with a cool haircut because I do feel really comfortable with her. I just tell her like, sometimes I get so hungry since starting tea and like I feel depressed. And then I eat. And I'm not depressed anymore. And she didn't even ask about it. She'll just go like, so how was it this time? And I'm like, I'll just tell her all this random stuff. And she's like, yeah, that's so interesting. She'll write it all down. And I don't even know if it's medically pertinent. It's just more like, I feel comfortable enough to share random details about my journey. It's so easy.
That's lovely.
Yeah. How long have you been on testosterone now?
2 years and a month. No.
Wait, okay.
2 years. Yeah, 2 years and a month, yeah.
2 years and a month.
And
And you've also had top surgery.
yes. Top surgery was a little over a year ago.
I remember like sitting with you at a coffee shop near the hospital after your top surgery.
Yes.
And you were still like in recovery wearing the binder.
And I couldn't put my coat on.
Yeah.
I had like my little T-Rex arms and you're like, do you want some help? And like, I just hadn't had help yet. And I was like, yeah, actually, I would like some help putting on my coat.
Oh, I forgot about it.
I mean, I did have so much help emotionally and everything, but physical help I hadn't had a lot of. And so I was like,
Right.
actually, yes, thank you.
Right.
I can't put on my coat.
Which is fine. Glad to help. Yeah, I remember that. And I also remember you telling me that at the Airbnb you're staying at in Seoul, right after the surgery, a friend came to open all the water bottles for you. I thought that was really sweet.
Yeah, sweet, sweet Sebastian.
Oh, that was Sebastian.
Oh,
Of
thank
course
you,
it was.
Sebastian.
Wait, can we mention him
Sebastian.
by name?
I don't know. Well,
I'll ask
sorry.
him. I'll reach out and ask if we can mention him by name. But he's
Okay,
such
we'll
a
say it.
sweet
Thank you,
human.
redacted. Oh, yes.
So, just over a year later, how do you feel now? Do you feel like medically transitioning that whole shebang that is still ongoing, really? Because, we need the gender affirming hormone therapy for many, many years to come. The recommendation is until you're in your 50s, when most cis folks get into, like, what's the word when women stop having periods? Or people stop having periods?
Menopause?
Yes. When a lot of cis folks get into their menopause and hormone levels start to change, and then you make a decision whether you're going to carry on with your therapy or not, or blah, blah, blah. So that's all like individual, but it's the long-term health care that we need. What do you feel like stands out most to you in terms of the way things were before and the way things are now?
Before testosterone or before top surgery or both?
Both.
I would say what stands out to me as a huge change with HRT is just...
Which stands for hormone replacement therapy, which we're using interchangeably with GAHT, gender affirming hormone therapy, which means for us going on testosterone.
Yes.
Yes.
So when I started testosterone and once I was more like leveled out and stuff, I knew so much about the physical changes that would happen, but I just couldn't comprehend how my brain would change or just like my
Oh, yeah.
overall well-being in my mind.
Mm.
I just had never felt peace in my mind. And
Yeah.
so like that has been like, so huge for me is to just feel like I'm not fighting with my mind. It just feels good. And I would say that like when I started meds for depression, ADHD, that also helped in a similar way, but not most of the way. It was a little bit better. And then once I started testosterone, it was like my mental health just improved so much. And I just didn't need to work so hard every day. I didn't need to work so hard to find peace within myself. I just could live my life. And that was so great and something I didn't know would happen. I thought it was always going to be so much forced self-care just to like be okay
Right.
every day. And then it was like, oh, it's easy and now I can just go live.
Yeah.
So that was huge. And then after top surgery, feeling like I'm in my body. And that's another thing. Like I would work so hard just to accept my body and get in my body, like yoga, meditation, did like so much inner work about body image and body neutrality. And all of that did play a part in why I feel like so at peace with my body. But there was a piece that I just couldn't get over. And then once I got top surgery, I'm like, oh, I can be in my body now. Like I'm not floating above and like watching me walk around in my daily life. I'm in it and it's mine. And it just feels so different and so good. And like the way I use it feels different too. I can make more informed decisions about how I use my body and I can feel really confident in how I move
Right.
or even like sexual stuff. Like I really feel like I'm a part of that moment and I can comfortably explore it and not check out. And that's been so wild to feel for the first time ever. So
That's so beautiful.
good stuff.
That's so wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
So much joy. Brings me a lot of joy to hear you say that. And it's really inspiring and motivating and hopeful to... I am totally blanking right now, but I'm just basking in the joy. And
Oh.
yeah, I remember having a group Zoom chat with you a while ago with some other non-binary trans folks who we're all medically transitioning. And yeah, that feeling you just described of like being in your body and being able to explore intimacy with another person without having to check out, without having to like spectate all the time. And we're all like, every single one of us on our little screens just nodding along like so hard. We're like, yes. And what? I can cuddle with people. Cuddling is nice. Like cuddling feels good. And all this stuff, it was just like such a beautiful, wonderful moment of like, again, I'm not alone.
Yes.
Not just in pain and isolation, like in like the hard stuff, but also in joy. I'm not alone. Wow. My friend that I really care about also feels this joy. And I feel like there are very few feelings that are better than that.
Yeah.
Or you can also relate to other people's joy and like wholeness. Like such a simple thing. I'm just really, really happy to hear you say that. And it's almost like you're putting into words stuff that I can't really yet put into words as well. That's really cool too. Even though it's independent experiences, your experiences, my experiences, they vary and they're unique, of course, but partly because you started hormone therapy a little bit before me. And the first month or two of hormone therapy after I started my testosterone intake, which, by the way, like for people who are not familiar with the process, when somebody says I'm on, GHT or HRT, I'm in hormone therapy, it means estrogen or testosterone, usually one of the two, is administered into the body, either using some sort of through the skin method, like a gel or a patch. You can rub it on or like stick it on so that it gets absorbed through the skin. Or you get injections, like shots, regularly. And I know there are like oral methods of like taking pills and stuff, but I haven't really come across that in Korea. That's not really available in Korea. So when I started my hormone therapy, there were so many feelings that I'd never Like, the amount of joy and elation and euphoria I felt that first day when I was picking up my prescription was just indescribable. I'd never felt anything like that. It was like being high, but also you're really grounded in your body for the first time. For me, at least. I felt like I was walking on air, but also in my real earthly body for the first time completely. So, really felt amazing. And that part is easy to share with people. But then as time went on, I was like, wait, what are all these other feelings? You know, like, I think you helped put into words, again, some of those feelings that I wasn't expecting. And one of the things that really stood out to me, and I got a lot of help from you when I couldn't actually identify what I was feeling, was like that grief around not having been able to do this earlier, not having been able to provide this for yourself at a younger age. And I think that's just an example. And it really helped me to hear that from you, because you had already gone through that a year before that, or like at least a few months before I did, and you're at a more settled stage and you're like, yeah, went through it. And you described it in this really beautiful way of having a bottle of Coke and it was like all shaken up, and then you open the lid and like everything comes spilling out, like kind of explodes out of the bottle. And that's kind of how you felt for the first few months. And I'm like, dude. I mean, not dude, but Mo.
That's okay.
It's just so helpful to hear that. So thank you for being there to, you know, just kind of listen and like share.
Of course.
We have discussed how everyday things are just easier.
Yeah.
So would you say that that's been the most surprising part about medically transitioning?
Yeah, the most surprising thing was definitely how my mind felt peace more easily without so much work.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
So I guess that sounds like a more internal process, internal experience. Have there been changes in your external experiences with the rest of the world, socially, or like in your family relationships or friend work situations?
Yeah, I definitely have become much more social and just more comfortable in social situations. I feel like a lot of my friendships have gotten deeper. My like family relationships have even improved. Like, I'm very lucky. I know that that's a very rare trans story to hear, that my family supports me, but they really do. They're awesome. My parents both and my sister are so supportive, and they genuinely want to know so much about it. And so that has really just made our relationships that much deeper. I saw my mom a few weeks ago and she was like, you just seem, maybe, I don't know if she told me this. Yeah, she told me this, and I think she told my sister too. You just seem so calm. And I was like, thank you. I've never been told that before. So I've been told that here, but not in that part of my life.
Yes.
And she was like, you just seem like calm and it's good. I was like, thanks. I feel that way. So yeah, I guess like my relationships have felt better, and I feel more authentic when I'm making connections with people. And so social things just feel way more possible.
Right.
Like, I used to think I was an introvert, and now I don't feel that way at all.
Oh, yeah. I've never thought that you're an introvert, but that's interesting because
Now.
I've heard this story from somebody else too, who is going through a medical transition. They are like, I always thought I was a super, super introverted person, but it turns out I was just feeling really awkward in my body this entire time. I mean, like, that could be a part of the transition, and maybe like that could shift again. But like, I just think it's so beautiful. Yeah, that social interaction can become easier simply because you're just more aligned. Your outside matches the inside a little bit better. Not a little bit. I feel like more people do need to and want to hear these stories, or at least, you know, I want to hear these stories. Because we see each other occasionally in person. I've seen you when you're more aligned with yourself, I guess. So, like, I don't know the way you were before or how you felt before too much.
I don't think it was totally different from an outside perspective. I've always put myself in situations that an extroverted person would, but the way that I felt in those situations was a lot of anxiety, and then I would need to separate and like recharge. And now I actually enter into those situations feeling comfortable and don't need to do any maintenance after. Yeah. So
That's amazing. Oh, that's so good. So, like, your inside matches what I see on the outside more.
yeah.
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 You always seem so relaxed socially, and you're always having a good time, and you're also very grounding presence, no matter where you are. So, like, I'm just really, really happy to hear that. That's also,
Thank you.
sounds like it's close to how you're experiencing life. Also, I'm like really glad that your family is supportive of this.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I've heard like a lot of stories of family members completely being supportive and they want to know more. I feel like that's always the highest level of engagement if they want to know more about what's happening to you, in you. And yeah.
Yeah, my parents are amazing. They will do research independently to learn more about what it means to be trans and what a non-binary person is.
Oh my gosh.
Even early on, my mom was like, I took out a book from the library and she's like, I'm learning more. And then she'll like ask me questions about it. Yeah. And then when I visited New York, my parents were using they, them pronouns. And I was like, hey guys, I love that. I'm using all pronouns now, so don't stress yourself out too much. Don't worry if you slip up or if you want to use the other one. So they're like, oh, okay, great. But like they had worked so hard for like the last, I'm sorry for them. Like they're older and like it's harder for older people to do that. And then they were like, we have to make it right. And I'm like, that means so much. But even when I was like saying goodbye to my dad, I think he used he for me. And my mom was like, wait, what? And then he's like, no, but we gotta interchange them. We gotta use all of them because I updated him and I was like, you got it. And they're like, oh yeah, okay.
Exactly my numbers.
They are so amazing.
Yeah, it's just that intention behind that action.
Yes.
Let's find a way to honor and respect your wishes, your comfort, above everything else. Like even at the cost of confusion.
Yes.
That's just pure love.
Yes.
That's awesome.
It's amazing. Definitely the hardest part is like my singing voice change. That was the hardest part for me of transition, which is kind of cool that was the hardest part. I don't know. That's like fine. And I'm finally at a point where I really love it. And that's been so great.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was so hard for me to lose the feeling of singing. I think I talked to you about it before a little bit, just like the muscle feels different. And that muscle felt so good to use. And then like, yes, I can still sing, but it just felt totally different. Like getting a bad massage. It's like, what a good massage feels like, but you're getting a bad one. But now it's finally shifting and it feels good again. And it took so long because this has been like more than 2 years. It just took so long to get here that I was like, oh, I just need to accept that I've let go of that. So yeah, I went through all those stages of we can grieve the loss of that part of me. And now I have something new and it is more similar than I thought. And it feels really good. So I'm singing a lot and I really like it.
That's wonderful.
It's great. I knew that would take a long time. I researched about that when I was having a pretty hard time with it. And I was like, how long does it take for you to sing and it doesn't just, no air comes out, just like nothing. And I was like, I don't want that. And people on TikTok, thank you, trans people on TikTok, they were like, it can take 1 year or 3 years and just keep going. And I was like,
6 years?
Okay. Yeah, like, it can take a long time.
For some people.
Totally. And it's true, like it is getting better and feels more supported and more joyful for me. So I'm so happy.
Le happiness. I'm really glad to hear that. Oh, I did hear you sing when we were at the
Cabin in the Woods.
The queer retreat, I want to say.
The queer retreat.
Cabin in the Woods.
I love that. Queer retreat.
You were the organizer, of course. Yes. For like some group fun time in the mountain somewhere in the south of Korea.
Queer cabin in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. And I was like, I have no idea who else is coming. But if Mo's organizing it, I'm sure it's going to be fine. So showed up and everybody there was like, yeah, I don't know anybody else. I just know Mo. And we're like, great. And then we sang karaoke.
Yes.
And you sang like one song. And I thought your voice was really, really, really beautiful.
Thank you.
Like, I was like, I want to hear more of it. But now you're feeling even more comfortable with it.
Yes.
So maybe we can go sing karaoke sometime.
Yes, absolutely. You were so brave to come on that trip and you helped me so much. So there
Oh,
were so
yeah.
many like issues just because I can't speak Korean and like I organized a trip,
Language.
you know, of
Yeah.
course.
And then the owner of the building was Korean, like a middle-aged Korean man, very sweet.
Yeah.
And when he saw me, he was so relieved.
Yeah.
He was like, "Oh my gosh, I thought I was gonna have to use a translation app like the entire time." And he kept messaging me with every single thing. Can you tell Mo this? Can you tell Mo
I
this?
know.
Even though like you had booked everything, so I didn't mind at all. And then at the end of our stay, he gave us these. Do you remember like?
Oh my God.
These pairs of underwear.
He like
made-
came in with the little
in
boxes.
these little boxes. It was like, these are gifts for you and Mo. And I was like, oh, great, awesome. And everybody was there too, by the way. Everybody in the group.
But it was only for
were
us.
all like preparing to leave in the living room. And he gave us these two little,
Okay.
I don't want to say those words.
Yes, it was
underwear.
Okay, I'm sorry, but they were granny panties. They were granny panties and they were beautiful.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
Don't you wear them every
Made
day?
from some kind of natural dye.
Oh yeah. Because like he's a farmer and so like he used his
They were
crops.
dyed with like, yeah, it's like clay something. It's like an organic dye.
Yes.
And it's supposed to be really good for feminine health system. No, he didn't say that. It just said it on the little flyer that was in the thing, which is also, I guess he sells a lot of products that he makes. You know, like he had a whole list of like alcohols and foods that you could also order from him during your stay at his Airbnb. Anyway, I think it was a really sweet gesture. It was just that when we opened up these gifts in front of like the entire group, it was just like granny panties, and we're like,
The two trans mass non-binary people had like this old feminine
of course.
underwear. We were like, yes, thank you. Oh.
they're really nice though.
So
I
nice.
tried giving them to my grandma, and she was like, they don't fit me.
Oh.
They're too small. And I was like, oh, that means they're going to be too small for me.
Mm.
I guess I'm going to give them to my mom or something. But, you know, it's just nice. It's a nice
Just
it's a nice memory attached to it.
I
So,
know.
like, it's still sitting in my drawer in the box.
Yeah.
So every time I look at it, I'm like, oh, good times.
Yeah, I kept it too.
It's nice, right? Aside from organizing amazing trips with other queer people so we can all meet each other and talk about our traumas and like bond over underwear, is there anything else that you're passionate about in life?
I mean, it's hard to ask that question to myself as a neurodivergent person. It's like, what am I passionate about this month? And next month, something else, baby.
And also, what am I not passionate about?
Well, okay, something that I'm always passionate about is accessibility and making information accessible. That's something that is always a passion of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that. Like, I don't get into arguments with people, but I'm always like fighting for something. Like, I don't like to fight, but I'm always fighting for something. And so I guess something that I'm passionate about is finding injustices and trying to do something about it.
Non-binary people change the world, as well as women.
Nah. As well as
I love it. Well, the next question is, what brings you joy?
so many things.
List them all.
List them all. Okay. Settle in. No, mostly people. So there's lots of things that bring me joy, but if people are involved with it, it just gets better. So, you know, I love nature. I love food. I love creativity and music and games. But I only love those things when I can share them. And so even like boring things that don't matter at all can also bring me a lot of joy if I'm just with people that I can have conversations like this with. So yeah, forming connections with people who are different than me or someone that I connect with really well, like that brings me a lot of joy. Peoples and kids. I love kids and hearing what they have to say.
Yeah. Children have some wisdom to impart, and also just like random shit too. Oh, I think your students must really, really like you. Do they like you?
I think so. They always say, "Mama, teacher, I love you." So I think so. I love them too.
I think being non-binary comes with and being queer in general comes with a lot of obstacles sometimes, a lot of joys, but also obstacles. And so when things feel a little bit rocky or unstable or just a little bit like off, is there anything that you do that makes you feel more at peace?
There's lots of things that I do, but I think the most helpful thing is to always remind myself that I have options for which thing to choose in any given moment. So, like, there's lots of things that I try to sit with anxiety or grief or overwhelm, but just knowing that I have the option to try different things at different times is good. Maybe today I watch a movie. Maybe today I'm gonna eat some food. Maybe today I'm gonna journal. Maybe I'm gonna move my body. I know that there's some ways that are seen as the healthy thing to do. There's some things that are the good thing to do, and there's some that are the bad. But I just try to make them all neutral and like, these are all options for me to choose.
Yeah.
So I don't really stick to just one thing. Just say, what am I gonna try today?
I love that.
Yeah.
The second to last question that I'm going to ask you, is there anything that you're really excited about these days? Oh, your face is like so daydreamy and hopeful and shiny right now. I love it. As you look off into the distance thinking.
Well, that is how I feel. I can often like get myself in projects, but right now I'm not in a project. And so I guess I'm just, looking forward in a dreamy way to what's gonna come next. I'm not like rushing towards the next thing, but I'm open to finding it. So I don't know. I know that this upcoming year I'll be teaching and living a lovely life. I just don't know the details of what this year is going to be about yet. So I'm really excited to find out.
Yeah, the not knowing is exciting.
That's all.
Yeah. That brings us to the last question. What is your favorite drink? This is the most important question in our show.
Most important, a margarita. No, not a margarita, though I do love those. I'm going to say alcohol because I like it. So actually, I love Yuja Makgeolli. I'm a Yuja Makgeolli monster, and I just really enjoy it. So like even the CU at the bottom of my building knows me as Yuja Makgeolli person.
The convenience store at the bottom of your building knows you as the Yuja Makgeolli person.
They know me.
I love that.
Yes. And like it was gone for a number of months. And then like when they got it back in, they were like, you're here. Yuja Makgeolli's here too. They're like, thank goodness you're here. And I was like, thank goodness.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
how would you describe Yuja Makgeolli to people outside of Korea or people who haven't tried it yet?
It's a rice wine. I would say it's like an unfiltered sake, but lighter alcohol. So like you can just like, you drink it like a beer, but it doesn't taste like beer. It tastes so delicious.
Was sake brewed and fermented? Or is it a spirit?
Yeah, it's brewed like beer, but it's not beer.
Oh, really? Okay, then it is more similar to sake. If you're not sure, we can do a fact check on it after
I know, I'm like,
recording.
wait, what if I'm saying the opposite of what's true? I was supposed to know so much about sake at one point in my life. So I'm
really?
like, If I'm wrong about that one, it's my bad. I'm going to Google that right away. But makgeolli is delicious.
I think sake and makgeolli are both traditional forms of alcohol. Sake is Japanese and makgeolli is Korean.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, I like the makgeollis you can get at convenience stores. Just like, easily accessible makgeollis are great because they're not expensive and they taste great. But I got a chance to try like a hand-brewed organic craft makgeolli. And this dude makes it in a mountain, again, because Korea is full of mountains.
Thank goodness.
And he has his own brewery, and he's the only person who works there. And these makgeollis are, like, out of this world. It's a little sour, a little, like carbonated, a little bit. It just tastes a little bit like yogurt. But it's alcoholic and it's light, and it's got that slightly tangy and sweet taste. And it's the most beautiful thing. Okay, if I order a box, then I'm definitely saving some for you. I think you should try it.
Thank you so much.
But makgeolli is like
I'd love to.
so good. So that's your favorite drink, Yuja Makgeolli.
Yeah.
Yuja is a form of citrus. Do you know the English word for that?
It's like yuzu.
Yuzu, right?
Citron?
Yeah. It's a form of citrus and it's delightful.
Yeah.
It's perfect for like winter times. We have like Yuja tea
Yeah.
and stuff, which is to die for. So yay.
Oh my God, wait, I have to say one thing though.
What?
When my voice was changing because of tea,
Yeah.
my coworkers were really confused, the Korean coworkers, and so they were like, "Oh my God, it must be like COVID." They thought I was so sick because my voice was lower, and raspy and cracking. And so I was gifted this really nice jar of yuja that like you would mix with water to make yuja tea.
Yeah.
And she's like, "We're so worried about you, teacher, because like you've been so sick and your voice sounds so horrible. And here is some yuja." And I was like, "Thank you so much." And I was like, I love my voice though.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny. They're so sweet to me.
Yeah, it is funny because when your voice starts to change and it's like lowering, you do sound a bit like you have a cold.
Yeah.
But it's just not getting better. Quote unquote better. So for you, it's like, I love this. And other people are like, "Are you okay?
Yeah.
Like, what's happening? Why is your cold not getting better?" So yeah, that's really
You've had a cold
thoughtful
for
of
2
them.
years. Are you okay? I know. I feel so sad that I can't just like be totally honest.
gosh.
They mean well.
That's really sweet of them, and literally
Yeah.
sweet because the tea's quite sweet. But
It's very sweet, yes.
have they followed up with that? Have they asked you more questions like, "Wait, what's happening with your voice now? Like, are you still sick?"
Some of them did, and then they just kind of stopped. And, who knows?
Who knows?
knows what
Who knows what straight people
They
think?
think. Who knows?
Such a mystery.
They've always been kind, and we just don't talk about it, and that's fine.
Aw, great. Sounds like a
Yeah.
perfect Korean resolution.
Exactly. We just don't talk about it, and so everything's fine.
Closure.
We're good.
Oh, awesome. Everybody can exist in harmony. Like, there are some things today that you've told me that I was not aware of before, which is just a wonderful side product of doing this with my friends. And I
Yes.
love that other people get to hear some of this as well. Because there's like so much confusion because of lack of access. I feel like people are just more than anything really confused when it comes to like, what do you mean you're trans? What do you mean non-binary? What do you mean they, them? How does that all work? And like, well,
What are the kids doing these days?
yeah, exactly. Well, here it is. Here's a story from two non-binary folks, and you're just like a kind, lovely human being. There's never any time when I've been around you and felt like on edge. And I get nervous easily. I have trust issues, but I've never felt that way with you. And I just really appreciate that, and I want you to know that.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on the show so other people listening can like share in some of this light and goodness and joy.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm really honored to be on this podcast. So nice.
It's a mutual honor.
I told you and I told others, I'm like, I'm scared to be on a podcast, but the only person I'm going to face that fear with is Jay. So let's do it. And actually, this is great.
Oh my gosh.
I love this. So thank you for having me. Just the fact that you're creating a platform like this is really awesome. And
Yeah,
yeah, thanks.
it's our community that inspires me. So yeah, thank you for being part of my community, and you're welcome back anytime. We will probably have future episodes where we talk about the other 100 billion tangents that we didn't get to delve into today.
It was so hard not to go down all the tangents.
I know,
So
physically
hard.
holding ourselves back. So we hope to hear back from you soon. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And if you enjoyed listening to this episode of the Coffee Shop AU, then please feel free to let us know. We have Instagram and you can DM us there. The handle is at @the_coffeeshop_AU. Or you can email us at hi@thecoffeeshopau.com. Let us know your thoughts, and if you have any questions or comments, or if you just want to share your own story, if you are non-binary, if you're questioning, write us there, and we will meet you back here again soon. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Boy.